Okay, welcome everybody to this April the 15th Q&A support for timeline jumpers. And it's great to see you here. And we're going to, first of all, make sure that you can hear me. So just hit a Y in the chat box. And I think I'll turn this light off at the back. That way the light on the front hits my face a bit better. So no shadowy kind of a look. All right, fantastic. Thank you. And so people are still coming on. We'll give it another minute. And have, if you don't have a question, that's totally fine. Quite often I just, teach or remind or refresh or provide that extra detail and nuance that really makes a big difference. And I sort of tend to often channel it, if you will, on the fly based on present time needs. So I will start off with, at a planetary level, at the collective level, there's a lot that's been successfully removed, even though in the technical sense that's been going on for a long time. But we're really reaching that big sort of bigger breakthroughs and bigger, there's one Twitter lady, I can't remember her handle, but it ends with 444. She said our pituitary and pineal glands are getting more and more tuned, producing more ringing in the ears and that kind of thing. So the shifts, again, although they've been happening for a very long time now, we've reached that critical mass amount that's having a huge impact. Some of you that have been at this for a while may really be feeling kind of like your soul, I suppose. I'm not sure, because there's all sorts of higher aspects of what and who we are. Some would call it higher self. I prefer the term the soul. I can feel my soul integrating more in that area between the pituitary and pineal. Of course, whenever such a thing happens, your frequency goes up. And when your frequency goes up, we often know what happens, at least for a lot of us. Stuff comes up. Okay, so which either slows things down or frustrates things or causes some kind of upheaval or havoc as the stuff is forced out and leaving, or it's not forced out and doesn't leave for a number of weeks or months and therefore still weighs us down. That happens as well. So my job is to make sure that anything that comes up as a result of the shifts, higher energies, attunements, integrations with all your higher aspects, implant removals, that all that happens a lot more seamlessly. It's not 100% smooth for me either. And so that whenever something happens, something comes up, you know what to do. You're onto it. And it can be as, if there's something, quite often it's something, I don't know, like a streaming, smoky blackness. The way when people used to smoke at the end of a cigarette smoke, at the end of the cigarette, the smoke would sort of trail off in this smooth kind of way. You might see stuff like that, and especially around the center of your head. So, in the morning, do take that 5-minute glance at your field, at your body, holographically. just a quick glance, and anything you see, turn it white and disappear it. You can also turn it white and move it out at the same time and then watch it disappear. You can do that technique. That's fine. Again, this is happening for a while, but it's really going to be happening, or really has been happening. And one thing to be aware of is, and I know some of you will have heard this before, they've been termed dream insertions, where the dark ones insert a mini matrix, a holographic construct, where something happens, or there's some sort of an agreement, or if you see a piece of paper being filled out, you don't necessarily have to sign it, but a piece of paper being filled out, which is what the sleep state event that I had, some undercover policeman was booking me, is filling in a piece of paper, because a particular cart that you push, the wheels weren't right, something silly like that. And I was getting quote unquote booked for it. Now, that's an agreement or a contract in disguise. Okay, so when I started to become lucid, semi-awake, I sort of went back there, burnt the piece of paper, transmuted the so-called policemen, typically they're negative entities, made to look some kind of human, transmute them. You can, again, you're the god or goddess. You can do it from whatever angle. You can do it from whatever position, visually speaking, in relation to that holographic time-space event. And you can really be that god in a literal sense. So be that. Transmute whoever you needed to transmute in the sleep state event or dream insertion. The piece of paper that negative entity was filling out, I burnt it, transmuted the two policemen that were undercover, and one was sort of sitting next to me casually. And I then, just for good measure, I did a verbal revocation. All right. I'm pretty sure I have that. I'm going to make sure that's available in the members area. Okay. Where you just fill in certain blanks and then read it out aloud. You modify the blanks based on what it is that you need to clear yourself from. And then there was a separate dream where it was some sort of a tiny little house, wooden, and there was 3 individuals getting traumatized by these shadowy figures, making them feel a lot of fear. And I was watching it as if on a stand, spectator stand, watching it, and I transmuted the shadowy figures, got those individuals out. Okay, so the latter was more of an etheric plane event, most likely, and so that was transmuted, and that's how you do what you do with dreams. It's like any soul fragment retrieval, okay, where you go back in time, quote unquote, and retrieve that soul fragment out of there. Okay, maybe transmute an entity or two. You can do the same thing with sleep state events, aka dreams. Obviously, dreams, just like imagination, just like junk DNA, another huge misnomer. There's no such thing as a dream. It's all perfectly real, literal, legitimate events that are presented in whatever way our minds will understand. So whenever you wake up in the morning and you're kind of spooked, or your confidence isn't there, you're not feeling right, it might not be an entity around your field. It could simply be, and you remember the dream. Go back as a third party witness and transmute things, sort things out. Again, just like when you go to retrieve a soul fragment, you're from that, you're now seeing things from that third party perspective, almost like the witness or spectator looking from the outside in, and you transmute and should I say retrieve that soul fragment. Okay, you can do pretty much the same thing, at least the same principles, with negative sleep state events, aka dreams. Verbal revocations, yeah, for good measure. Okay, not always a must. And this serves as another reminder of just how much power you actually have once your consciousness level is there, once you know what you can do, and be the goddess or god that you intrinsically are, in reclaiming that in the process by getting your feet wet and doing this and that. And lastly, when it comes to negative sleep state events, try always, when I do my entity clearing in the morning for a few minutes, and I usually do typically three entities, that's enough to really stabilize me and just move forward and raise my timeline for the day a couple of notches, which is quite significant. If there was a bad dream, I do one more look at my field in the white background, just like that 5-minute audio shows you. And I ask, or hold the intent, which entity inserted that dream? What's the one behind the orchestration behind that negative sleep state event? Sure enough, something pops up. You follow the same process as with the previous entity transmutations, and you just transmute it. Obviously, track back to source, transmute the source, follow that 5-minute audio. If you don't remember it, listen to that again. So that's how to handle bad dreams. It's generally referred to. And now let's quickly answer some questions. Let me see. New messages. Okay. And again, I also like to do audio as well. So if you click on reactions, the reactions icon at the bottom, just click on raise hand. You can also do that as well if you have another question. Thank you. So Pat, do I put the detox code on water pitcher? I have 4 in it. Thanks. Huh. I never thought of that. It's designed to wear on your body. And it seems to, if there's any part of your body where there's an acute problem, you can put it directly on that part of the body. Okay. You can put it on water, and I'd like to know how you went with it. I suppose if you're not able to get distilled water, sure, because you can always print and laminate as many copies as you want, right? So you can have it on various uses. You can try putting it underneath your plate of food, and see if that has any effect. And because I haven't gotten that far in experimenting with the detox code on this, that, and the other, especially food and water. So, you know, food for thought, no pun intended.
Okay.
Try it, and let me know how you go with it. Certainly, pragmatic step if you're not able to get distilled water. You know, we have a water type shop nearby here in Sedona, and you know, we fill up big 5-gallon sort of drums, and we get distilled water. And just as a quick aside, no, the distilled water does not get rid of the good minerals in your cells. It only gets rid of bad minerals in your cells. So you don't need to worry about that common misconception. Although it is a good idea to put salt, whether it's Celtic sea salt or Himalayan salt, you know, half of a quarter of a teaspoon of salt in your water bottle. I do that in the distilled water just to make sure you get minerals, because I know my system needs a big demand for minerals because of its nature, and again, because of all the rewiring and implant removal and shifting and attunement and DNA activation that we're going through, even at the collective level, you do want to make sure you're getting enough minerals in your system. Okay, and that's one way to do it. So, Pat, you know,
Thanks.
I don't know, in a few in a couple of weeks, let me know
Okay.
how you go with putting the detox code on the water bottle and under your food, perhaps. You can the 4x4 inch.
Yeah.
For the rest of you, you can sleep on it, stick it underneath your sheet, or you can stick it underneath your pillow and see if that helps with the headaches that a lot of us are waking up with. Again, I admit I haven't gone that far to experimenting with the detox code to that extent. And because you're all members, not all of you may have gotten the detox code. If you're really curious about it now, you know, I'll give it to you at a good discount. So yeah, thanks for that, Pat.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let me just quickly see. Okay. All right. Fantastic. Now, Michelle. Okay, good to see you here. What is the best way you would recommend for decalcifying the pineal and pituitary glands? There's the best way is to do a visualization, and this is something I learned from Cobra. You can't just move white light through it and hold the intent of dissolving the molecular structure of the calcium, the calcified fluid within the pineal gland, and hold the intent, hold the thought, the so-called imagining and actualizing, you know, these molecular structures just falling apart. Okay, you know, for 5 minutes a day. There is one method that Cobra taught where you run an electric blue beam through the forehead and through the pineal gland and through the back, and then another electric blue beam coming crosswise through the pineal gland, and another one from top to bottom, and in the middle it really lights up the pineal gland. You can do that as well if you like, if you're drawn to it, and that drastically decalcifies the pineal gland. Or of course, the third eye system also does what what I just described. That's another alternative, and many people feel it when they look at the screen, because the mind, when it's at a lower brainwave state, essentially under hypnosis, it tends to sort of act on whatever it receives visually or auditorily. I would say that's the best way to decalcify the pineal and pituitary glands. Again, third eye system makes it easier in terms of visualization because you're looking at the screen under a semi-hypnosis state. Now, of course, we've all come across some kind of herb or food, spice or tea that decalcifies the pineal gland. You can just do a brave search. I wouldn't recommend Google for obvious reasons. Do a brave search, says, and just type in the top 10 herbs, teas, or foods.
Pine needle tea. I've heard about pine needle tea lately, or pine needle extract.
Yeah, I do remember coming across that as well. And yeah, start using a couple of those foods or supplements or herbs. Now, another one that I have heard is borax, a clothes washing powder. Pretty sure it's called borax because it's only in America. We don't have it in Australia.
Borax with an X on the end. Yeah.
Thank you for helping me with that. Borax, apparently if you put, I don't know, wet your finger, dab your finger in a little bit of a borax powder, and then just wipe it off on your tongue. You know, do that once a day. Apparently that helps. You know, I can't say I did it for a while. I'm sure it does something, you know. At the moment, I've been experimenting with MMS, mineral miracle solution, to accelerate that process. Yeah, do what you're drawn to. There's a number of options. My personal favorite is the visualization method and or the third eye system. You know, and the good news is such things work better these days, and energy work in general tends to work better these days because more stuff are being removed, both in terms of our internal stuff, implants namely, and the external non-physical planes. More stuff are being removed all the time, which makes energy work more effective, more easier, etc. So yeah, thanks for that, Michelle. Melody, dear Jim, apologies for the many questions and for hoarding anyone's question as well. That's all right. But what is the best way to reconnect with the HOD when we get interrupted by 3D stuff while going up to the teams? Would imagining holding the HOD's hands help connect with them much easier? All right, so it would be the Gamalgam's hands that you hold. The HOD don't necessarily, well, I'm sure they can manifest hands, I guess. But generally, that's quite a different kettle of fish, the HOD. So let me see, I'll read a little further. Is it recommended to go to the teams with more than one different issue at a time? I'll get to the first question first. And they're reasonable questions, by the way, that we can all get a fair bit from. All right, so interruption from 3D stuff while going up to the teams. Now, first of all, I'm going to assume that you always put your phone on airplane mode Your computer is either switched off or in another room or on airplane mode, etc. And you're in a nice, slightly darkened room with the clothes, with the curtains drawn. That tends to allow a person to focus more inwardly in a darkened room. But if you live with others and they're in the house at the same time, understandable. So what you do is, if you get interrupted while you're going up there, okay, then repeat the process of going up there. Okay. Now, once you're up there, whether it's the amalgam or the HOD, once you're up there and you've felt them, they felt their energy or confirmed it's the amalgam, etc. And then say you're there, all right, you're up there and it's definitely them, etc. And then you get interrupted. That's when you don't have to repeat the process of going up there. Okay. You can just return your consciousness back up there with them, right? Because you've already gone up with them and established contact with them. Once you do that, you don't have to do it again, even if you get it interrupted the next minute. Okay. So that's what to do in that kind of situation. Is it recommended to go to the teams with more than one different issue at a time? It depends on how. Generally, no, as a generalization. But if your mind has adjusted to the realness of it all, has no problems connecting with the non-physical, no real challenge in seeing the non-physical and visualizing, then you can handle more than one issue in the single session. Okay. If you're experienced and your mind accepts it all, it knows it's real, it can see things. Sure. Other than that, and you've got the energy to focus on more, and time for that matter, to focus on more than one issue at a time. Other than that, unless you don't, if you don't have the ease and grace and mental acceptability with working with a non-physical, and it's a bit more of a process for you, then I would recommend just sticking to one issue or block within one session. With experience, yeah, perhaps you can do two issues. So that's a general recommendation on that one. But at least in the theoretical sense or technical sense, yes, you can work on more than one issue within the single session. It's just, again, unless you're pretty much a switched on psychic or have no problems working with the non-physical, it's a bit difficult. So if you're not in that category, just stick to one issue for one session. Let me see. How do we heal physical ailments? So with that, typically not all the time. Typically you need to take dual action, so the non-physical and the physical action to overcome that. Because physical ailments, there's a more of a dense nature to it. It can often require a physical remedy. So with that, you begin with clearing why it ever came into existence in the first place. Okay. In other words, you go up to the teams and you show them this, and all of you together do energy surgery or whatever the root cause is. Sometimes it could be an injury from a past life, in which case you do a soul fragment retrieval. Okay. Depends on what comes up. And then while you're up there towards the end, you can show them a vision of you being without that physical ailment, healthy. So if you've got a bad ankle or knee or back, you can show the teams, show them a vision of you walking briskly and with your, upright, walking well, or jogging or running, and tell them, well, this is what I want, and then remove stuff. All of you start removing stuff that might be in the way of that. So, as always, with such things, you clear the energetics first with the teams, and then after that, you take those 3D pragmatic steps in whatever modality of healing it is to heal that physical ailment. All right. So sometimes you don't have to do the physical step. You don't have to take the physical step. The energetic surgery or cause, working with the teams, is enough and clears it. There's this veteran grid worker that I helped out. She's in Southern California, did a brief clearing, and the following day her back was fine. A friend that I helped out, just quickly and briefly, he's also majorly dedicated to planetary liberation. I did a clearing on her briefly to help her out, and when she went to get a bottle of water and walked up the steps, it didn't hurt her. Okay. So the energy work first, and if that does not solve it, it means you still need to complement it with a 3D healing modality of whatever kind. Okay. But just be careful. You think you might need something exotic like a technology or some serious acupuncture or whatever, but you may need something as simple as an Epsom salt bath to get the magnesium you need for the cells to start healing themselves. You don't always have to do these exotic things like Theragem treatments, which is, a little gizmo that beams out right frequencies from this little light that comes through gems, and the gems have special healing properties. The gizmo itself has all these programs of different right frequencies that beams that out as well as pulse electromagnetic frequencies, as well as the third element to it. You don't always have to do anything more pricey or exotic. It could be simple as Epsom salt bath or eating right for your blood type, so you're not getting food allergies. Okay. It could be as simple. So make sure you got all the simple basic things covered first before you go the more expensive exotic route. Okay. So that's just a quick recommendation. Let me see. How do we heal? So that's how you feel physical ailments. If the group is interested, let's see here. Okay. If the group is interested, could we share email addresses? Thanks. I might go one step better. I've been thinking of putting together a Telegram chat group. Okay. That's probably preferred. There, Pat, for privacy reasons. So once we get some more numbers, as more and more, as even the concept of timeline jumping, let alone healing at the spiritual level, continues to grow in awareness and popularity more and more to the mainstream. I may do a Telegram chat group, or maybe even a Facebook group, although I'm not a fan of Facebook, obviously. Okay. So thanks for that question and query, Pat. Michelle, to everyone, I have not done the ICB yet, but I've done phase 4 several times. What is the difference in these programs? Reasonable question. The difference, the 4 phases, let me see here. The 4 phases has a more broad focus, a more broad and general focus that clears layers and layers in the more horizontal sense. That makes sense. Okay. One layer after the other, more quickly, more comprehensively, and several of them. Okay. And the ICB is more about just diving in and through many layers. It's more perpendicular, for lack of a better term. That's more specifically focused on a specific issue or a specific category or a theme. That's the way. That's the main difference between the two. Now, the 4 phases is great for that jump start. Not that the ICB isn't. They can really plow through stuff like nobody's business. More so than certainly most tools out there. You know, I can't say for sure all. Very good jump start. You know, the 4 phases are good in that way. Okay, to get those outer crusts and layers that's there and blocking you, to really go through them. Obviously great for the chakras. The ICB is for, you know, that one issue that keeps on reoccurring kind of thing. And you've already tried the 4 phases and it didn't seem to do the trick. That's when you need to go down deep into a very deep hidden core event that causes those repeats. So I would say the ICB is pretty good for repeat patterns. Now, it is important to keep in mind that we do need to make sure we give attention and put some time into physical level rewiring as well, which is why I'm always a fan or an advocate of one of those brainwave entrainment audios that basically forces you into meditation. It's good to combine energy work with those as well, because, you know, our existing wiring has been there. Our existing wiring has been there for a long time, very deeply imprinted. And because it's physical, more energy is more dense in nature because it's more physical, and more energy is needed to shift it and move it. Okay, so as you do energy work, that extra light in working with the teams and that extra light in getting, you know, your soul light more and more clear, that does alter wiring to a degree, but obviously not fast enough. Okay. Again, physical wiring is physical. It's more dense. It needs more energy to move it. So that's why I've always been an advocate for including brainwave entrainment audios in your weekly regimen or daily regimen if you can have it. Yes, it's good to have you with us as well, Araka. Nice hat. Okay. Oh, there we go. All righty. Let me see here. So even just the lesson that you got on what to do with bad dreams, even that has made it well worth your while being on this call. Okay, let me see here. All right, bear with me here. All right, good. There we go. All right, let me see. Excuse me while I learn Zoom. Yeah, so you certainly gotten that important lesson. All right, how do you do this? No, that's not what I want. Really important ability to know what to do when you have those bad dreams. Really important to know what to do. Otherwise, you do, because if you don't clear those sleep state events in the way that I just explained at the beginning of this Q&A call, you do end up starting your day on a lower timeline with your confidence undermined, you know, and maybe even tricked into something, into an agreement or something like that. So definitely, I'll make sure you get the recording of this, so so you can listen to this again if you need to know exactly what to do whenever you have a bad dream. And another great way to put it is, you don't have to put up with garbage, because ultimately it's all games, deliberate, malicious games that they try to lock us up into. So yeah, let me see. Yeah. All right. So if anyone has any other query or they're not sure about, let alone a burning question, certainly, raise your hand or type it into the chat box while I figure out how to restore the original settings on Zoom. So anyway, never mind. We've only got a few minutes left anyway. Okay. You're welcome, Melody. Would the ICB have an update in the future? Certainly, I look for opportunities on how to improve things, improve existing tools, augment them. Now, just keep in mind with the ICB, there's the core work, which is only an hour long. Then there's all the extra modules, all right, and altogether comes to, what was it, 2 hours, 3 hours if you do all of it, which is the chakra work towards the end, that toroidal field clearing. So the 3 hour, or was it 2 hour or 2.5 hour full length one, you only need to do that once at the beginning, okay, and then maybe once every few months, okay, especially if you've had a bad experience or something major come up. But other than that one time, doing the 1 hour core work module, I'm pretty sure the module is called core work. That's the one that you only need to do from then on, okay, on any regular basis. I just want to make sure everyone knew that. Zoe, on the topic of sleep, is it true that we need less sleep if we raise our personal vibration? In and of itself, yes. And the but, because so many stuff's being removed externally and internally as the non-physical planes situation continues to improve. As a result, more light comes in, which forces more change at the DNA level, more rewiring, often results in physical detox as well, not just emotional and mental detox, where your mental awareness over a long-held belief or perspective on whatever confronts you and it shows that it was wrong. That's an example of a mental detox. All that rewiring and change at the physical and non-physical DNA level, that uses up a fair bit of energy, okay? So it's kind of like an ironic or contradictory thing where vibration's increasing, but that increase, more light's coming in because the implants also is being removed, which allows more light and which allows more rewiring and DNA activation. So yes, you need less sleep, but the processing that's triggering is using up a lot of energy. So if you've been fatigued this past few weeks and months, the way I have been, that'll be the primary reason. You know, it isn't all just negative interference or weapons. It's huge change, fundamental rewiring that's going on from the extra light that's coming through the detox and the body coping with the detox, the immune system being stressed, using up more energy, more rewiring because more light came through, another CME comes through, forcing more detox and more rewiring. So overall, the majority, I wouldn't be surprised if the majority of you feel more tired. As with any such matter, make sure you listen to your body very carefully. Yeah, drink lots of water, but make sure you take those minerals. Okay. But if you were completely clear, more or less, and your vibration was very high, yeah, you wouldn't need much sleep, as much sleep. That's true. All right. Thanks, Jim. And power and protection to everybody. I have to go. Sure thing, Lisa. I hope you, well, you only just left now, so you got a fair bit out of this, which is great. And we're coming close to the end of the hour, so we can wind things up. On the next Q&A, I'm going to bring up some old slides and graphics that I brought up of how a single injury affects how a single injury affects each of the each of the non-physical and physical body. Again, which will really help the rational mind really grasp things and therefore accrete such things, accrete the realness of this all, which helps in gaining that mastery in working with energy. So unless anyone has any further questions, I'll be ending this week's timeline jumping Q&A call. As with anything in life, keep at it. Okay, keep at it. Yeah, it's chaotic. That's because the whole planet's going through a chaotic time. That's where you muster even more discipline, especially in the area of social media, right? And go even more inwardly. All right. Having an early, nice sleep, getting into the habit of going to bed early is quite advantageous because it allows you to ride the energies of the sun better, the chi influence of the sun better. And because when you're low on energy or going through a difficult time, synchronizing your sleeping patterns with the sun really helps. Okay, it really helps. And getting up in the morning with the sun or just before the sun when daylight just starts to break, that helps you ride the chi of the sun. Because as I learned from one guy, Ari Witten is his name, we're tied to the sun, whether we like it or not. And many of you know that the elderly, notice how the elderly just start falling into this habit of going to bed very early and getting up very early. That's why. It's because their chi, understandably, is pretty low. So they have to, ride that chi wave of the sun when it sets and when it rises. So that's the reason why they do that. Of course, when we were young, we would be up at whatever hour, and it didn't seem to really affect us that much. You just keep on living. Well, that's the beauty of having a lot of chi. And speaking of chi, always remember energy work, soul fragment retrieval, transmutation, etc. always does a lot to raise your chi. And in particular, the chakra clearing video, which I released some time ago, which you don't really need because you got that chakra clearing module in the ICB, if I remember correctly. Use that and practice optimizing your chakras. I almost, and I do this once a week, by the way, I almost pretty much reconstitute my chakras as if I'm rebuilding them, where I move white light from the central part, move white light through it, and just have the white light leaving behind a very strong, vibrant, respective color and shape of the chakra. It's sort of straight and narrow. 2 centimeters diameter is plenty. Okay. Coming outwards and then start to widen into, and then really open up towards the outer part to about 8 centimeters. That's plenty. If you pretty much reconstitute your chakras, front and then back, if you do that once a week, that really helps with chi. Okay. So, again, just play around with the chakra module in the ICB. I'd recommend you do that once a week. You can do that with the amalgam. You don't have to go up to all the way up to the HOD to do the chakra clearing module. Play around with that. Get practice with it. I do that once a week to help, keep those chakras sharp, optimized, so that the chi is flowing. I'm really sort of disciplined about that because, like a lot of you, I'm sure, I need whatever chi I can get with the amount of energy that I push pretty much every day, especially during mass meditations. So that's recommended as well, doing that once a week. And the soul fragment retrieval before or after. Of course, you can do the, once you get practice doing the chakra optimization, you can always do that at the end of a soul fragment retrieval, so you don't have to go back up. It can be done in 15 minutes. All right. So 30 minutes for the soul fragment retrieval. That's 45 minutes. Doing that once a week. Highly recommended. Okay. So good on you. I'll get this recording out to everybody. Great seeing you all. Keep at it. Get turned into a lifestyle. I know most of you already have, but don't be afraid to push the boundaries of working with energy, a little adventurous, but in that playful, graceful way. You don't have to be all serious about it necessarily, despite it being a very serious, extremely important thing to do each week or each day in some cases. So well done, everybody. And I will see you. Actually, some of you, I'll see you on Wednesday night for the 144K mass meditation. It's going to be huge. The email for that is coming out hopefully in a minute, within the next half an hour. And go for it. Okay. Because now you really can. All right. This is Jim Torsakas signing off and closing this timeline jumping Q&A for this week.